You're listening to Green Ovation with Diane Naidu, the show where global warming is always a hot topic and green entrepreneurs are even hotter, where we chat to ordinary citizens who are innovating extraordinary climate solutions.
Good morning, listeners, and you're tuned into the Green Ovation Show this morning with me, Diane Naidu. I'm so happy to be chatting to you again this morning. And you know, as we do every week on the show, we chat climate change, we chat innovation, and one of my favorite subjects, entrepreneurship. This morning we are joined by Murendeni Mafumo, who is the MD for Cassini Water. Good morning, Murendeni. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Murendeni, like, you might not have heard the show before, you might not have tuned in before, but I'm absolutely, obsessed with anything to do with water solutions. So there's lots of issues that we're facing in South Africa in terms of climate change, but water for me is probably one of the most critical things that we need to really be innovating new solutions on. I heard that you have a social enterprise going that has something to do with making clean drinking water accessible to rural communities. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, that's correct.
So will you tell us what the solution is that you've come up with?
Yeah,
What is it?
Yeah, so we've made a mobile solar powered water purification system. So it's mobile in the sense that we refurbish old shipping containers, and then we fit our solar powered purification system in the containers, and we ship it out to any rural community. The solar powered system is ran over a 5-stage treatment process to ensure that the water is safe to drink. And one of those stages, the first stage is an activated carbon filter, which is made out of macadamia nut shells, which we source locally. So it's a filter that uses macadamia nut shells. So normally, when farmers farm macadamia nuts, they separate the shells from the nuts, and the shells generally become waste. So we take that off waste, we incinerate it, and we make it out into a carbon filter. And then we've got 4 other steps that involve nanotechnology, so some new interesting low energy technology that ensures that the water is 99.999% pure.
That's amazing. So I've already heard so many things that I want to ask you about. So what I really like is that it's not just a matter of recycling those macadamian shells. It's basically you upcycling it and using it in a different format. That's just insane. How did you stumble on this innovation? I have to ask.
So I used to work in a municipal setting. So I used to work for the city of Joburg. I also worked for the city of Cape Town in the water and sanitation department. So we've always been involved in research. So it was one of the things that I worked on after I left, to sort of look at what are some of the hard materials that we can use, that we can source locally to purify water. Because the general good practice at the moment is that of coconut shells, which is a very hard material. So we looked at what other material do we have that we can source locally. So we started looking at things like the macadamia nuts. There were some people that were using some seeds from sunflower seeds and all those type of things. So we literally tested out as much as we could, and then the macadamia nut shells, they work. It's good practice, and also it enables good upcycling as well. So it was really after a few years of research and just looking at different options to get to where we are at the moment.
So you mentioned the fact that you did quite a bit of research. I'm assuming you are from Limpopo. I'm assuming from your name that you are from Limpopo. So where did your journey begin? I mean, we often talk to entrepreneurs and find out, and we literally want to find out what inspired you to become an entrepreneur. Like when you were younger, did you ever dream that you would become an entrepreneur, that you'd innovate such an incredible solution? Was this always part of your plan?
Yeah, so it's so I never really imagined my life to be where it is, or to be an entrepreneur. So someone that's going out there to try and come up with solutions. But one thing that has always stuck to me. So it's obviously a process, and it's never really one event. But one thing that really stuck to me was when I remember when I was a kid, my mom made a mistake of buying me a set of books called Young Scientists.
She made a
and this was-
mistake.
yeah, it was a mistake because it turned a kitchen into a laboratory. So it was a set of 20 books that were explaining 20 different science concepts with experiments in each and every chapter. So there were hundreds of experiments that I could do. So one of the experiments was in water, a homemade filter, which was very cool. What meant white coat doing cool things in the laboratory. But I didn't really know to what extent that's going to be. So I've always wanted to be a scientist. So when I went in Limpopo, one of the biggest challenges, and this is a thing that we grew up with, when it comes to the lack of drinking water, it becomes normal. So it's almost like a normalized thing. So we know that there won't be water. So like, oh, there's no water. It's normal. We know that women and generally kids would have to carry water distances, and that's a normal picture that we always grew up with. So it's always a woman with a yellow jerry can on their head collecting water for distances. But one thing now, when we get older and you're working in the metropole like Cape Town and Johannesburg, coming up with all these solutions, that's when you start to think, but how come none of these conditions are improving in Venda, where I come from? So I think that's where my big step came from, to say, well, there's technology that exists. There's all this research that we're doing. We're putting in a lot of money in the urban space, but nothing is happening in the rural space. So I decided, let me tackle that rather.
So what did you study? I'm saying you left school and you went to go study what?
So I left high school. So I went to a technical high school. So we were doing a lot of technical stuff, so plumbing and all of that. So I decided to go to Cape Technical to do chemistry. So I studied chemistry undergrad. I did my BTech in chemistry at the now CPUT. And then I went on to, when I was working for the city, I went to study on my honors. I did water technology at the University of Cape Town.
Okay, so you go and you study and you find yourself in a space, and I'm just saying, I'm trying to figure out, like, I know that Limpopo, in terms of infrastructure and access to resources, it's quite a challenge, along with some of the other provinces as well. Do you have any idea, are there any indicators in terms of what that number looks like now in South Africa? How many communities are still battling to have access to water?
Yeah. So there's the official stats and the unofficial stats.
Okay.
So officially, over 95% of the people have access to drinking water. But it's a bit of a misleading statement, because that counts all the communal taps. At the moment, of the studies that were done by the University of Venda, about 70% of all the communal tap systems are not adequate, or not necessarily producing the best quality water at the moment. So the statistic says they're doing a lot when it comes to safe drinking water, but the reality at the moment says that it's actually not that much. So by access, the difference is that the UN, when they define access, they define it as closest to me there's a tap. And so South Africa, what the government has done is that they say we'll put in communal taps, but the problem is those taps are never running. 4 out of the 7 days the taps are not running, or the quality of the water is questionable. So there's all sorts of misleading in a sense of the information. So Stats SA would do the research and they'll say, yes, there are taps there, but they don't necessarily come on a day-to-day basis to see what quality of the water we have. But in the African continent, it's a lot more complex, because in the African continent we've got the diarrhea problem as well, which causes a big amount of child mortality.
So look, I have to get into the subject now of your relationship with the Climate Innovation Center. I mean, they obviously have a mission, and they've got a mandate to actually seek out and to pursue clean tech entrepreneurs who are making a difference, specifically in the climate change space. How did you come about the Climate Innovation Center? Where did you hear about it?
So I used to stalk Innovation Hub. I'm just kidding. So when I started with the project, I went on to the Department of Science and Technology, and I reached out to some of my colleagues at CSIR, and I said, I've got this technology. Let's test it out, and I'd like some assistance. And then I was pointed to the Innovation Hub. So at the Innovation Hub, I went on to apply for the green the green competition, so Cape Green competition last year.
Oh, great. So
and
what has it been like? I'm saying,
second.
so it was last year you're saying, so what has it been like, that journey with them?
Oh, it's been amazing. I really have to say, when I say this, it's almost sometimes people they think we're just saying it to make people feel good. But I think that being at Innovation Hub, being at CIC has been a life-changing experience for me. The mentor, the access to funding that I've received, and just the general support that the environment gives is amazing. So I've been fortunate to be there, and I really think it accelerated my business to the level that it's at right now.
Well, I do think, Murendeni, that your solution is definitely something which can be replicated across the continent. I'm really excited about the opportunities that you have to change things and change the lives of so many people, not only in our country, but like I say, across Africa. What are your plans? I mean, what does the future look like for Cassini Water?
Yeah, so we launched last year our minimum viable product. So it was a very scrappy looking product. It was all over the place.
You're not supposed to say that on air. Scrappy looking
No,
product.
but it was a start product. We were launching to start and to. I mean, I was listening to the founder of LinkedIn, and he said, if you're not mortally embarrassed by your first release, you've released too late. So we released as early as we could to ensure that the technology itself we can prove. So we're launching our second site in Mpumalanga this week. We're supposed to have launched last week, but we had some delays.
So when is this week? When exactly is this week?
It's actually being launched on Friday. I'm actually driving there. Driving there after this interview.
Okay.
So after this, after this, we've now perfected the technology. We've perfected the unit itself that we're building. We want to be rolling them out every 2 months for the next 2 years.
Oh, that's exciting. So I just need to ask as well. So this thing I hear, and you need to explain to me that it's a social enterprise. How does that work? What does that model look like?
Yeah, so the social franchise model, how we're seeing it is that most of the communities that we're looking to work into, it's harder to work with municipalities. So we rather work with local entrepreneurs, so local people that are looking to solve the problem locally to improve the access to safe drinking water.
Yeah.
So we go into communities that do lack access to safe drinking water in terms of the quality and the quantity of water, and then we look for young people that can operate our units to distribute the water locally. So we look at communities most affected by diarrhea diseases as well as the general lack. So we went into certain African countries to look at what are the social dynamics of increasing access. So that's why that's how the social business model works. So we partner with local companies, and we have a joint venture agreement with them.
So I'm just saying, I'm thinking so big and I'm getting so excited about it. At some point, I'm hoping that you will look at franchising this model, because it just sounds like such a great business venture. I'm already trying to figure out, what will it take for me to be able to invest in a business such as yours? So if you were speaking to me now as an investor, and like I say, I'm genuinely thinking about it, what kind of capital outlay is required?
Yeah, so when we're looking at each site, so we generally look at a smaller site than most other big companies, because we generally want to generally decrease the distance from tap to the home. So it's a 250,000 rand unit that we put out per site, and how the investment works in terms of the operator itself now. So the operator, the person that's in the ground, would need to put in about 20% of that amount upfront, and then we fund the rest of the project, and then they pay it off over a 5-year period, based on the production.
And all of this information is available on your website, I'm assuming.
Most of it is on the website. We are going to be updating the website.
What is the website?
So it's cassiniwater.co.za.
Oh, it's that easy. So listeners, you have it. It's cassiniwater.co.za. I've been chatting this morning to Murendeni Mafumo, who is an absolute genius as far as I'm concerned. Thank God his mother made the mistake in bringing him all of those science books. Murendeni, it's been so great chatting to you this morning. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you're on your way to your launch. I wish you well, and all the best for your launch venture in Mpumalanga. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We'll touch base soon.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
brandlive.co.za. Harnessing the power of talk radio. brandlive.co.za.